you guys. Welcome back to As For Me in My House. I'm Elena.
And I'm Jordan.
Welcome to Thoughts and Prayers. Today we're going to be sharing some thoughts on 3 ways you can kind of reconnect with your spouse and things that you can start doing today that will be so effortless and so easy. And maybe you find yourself in a season right now where maybe you just had a new baby, or you're both going through different changes, and maybe someone got a new job and you're trying to find a new rhythm. Maybe you're madly in love and you're just trying to find out more ways to be madly in love. I feel like this can be something that anyone can apply into their marriage today.
Yeah, and this is something Milena and I have certainly gone through, like roller coaster cycles, even just in our short, almost 6 years. 6 years. Yeah, by the time you guys see this.
Wait,
What day's our anniversary?
Isn't it today?
No, it's the 25th, sweetie.
Oh, okay.
We're recording this on the 20th, but by the time you guys see it, it'll probably be the 26th. So yeah, we'll have just been freshly 6 years married, which, man, time flies.
Sure as heck does.
But at any rate, we've been through a lot of, ups and downs. So things that we've implemented.
Don't look at my answers.
And I'm not cheating. I thought it was an open book test.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we just want to encourage you guys with some practical tips on what to do if you feel like, or like one or both of you are feeling a little bit like disconnected, how you can rekindle and strengthen your relationship together.
Yeah. All right, cool. First one, serve them in a new way. I think if you've been married for a long amount of time, or I feel like we are just such creatures of habit that sometimes we get used to serving our spouse in a specific way and we just keep redoing that. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think sometimes to kind of refresh and recycle kind of things, sometimes serving them in a new way will really catch their attention, or maybe gives you an opportunity to discover your spouse in a way that you haven't before. So for example, this is such a small example. Okay. A couple weeks ago, no, probably months at this point, but Jordan was busy doing stuff and I could tell that he was just a little bit stressed out. So I went and I walked the dogs instead of him. And do you remember this? You're like, wow, it was such a, it's me walking the dogs. It's not that big of a deal, but the dogs are a chore that I do not do. That is Jordan's chore.
Responsibility.
Taking care of the dogs is his thing, so I don't really do any of that, but I know that sometimes when he is busy or has a lot of stuff going on, it would just be a lot easier if he had help in that area. And so that specific day and what was going on in our life, I did that, and I remember that was such a small gesture on my end, but to Jordan it was such a big, I don't know, I remember the smile on his face. It looked as if I had just flashed him when I did that. You
I was like that's gonna be the thumbnail. I looked like the dog, just no, it's horrible. I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding. But yeah, I completely agree with that. I think definitely doing unique ways, especially if you know what your spouse's love language is and you serve them.
My next one.
Oh, sorry.
What would you say is one thing or one way that you have served me in a way that is different from before, or
well, again,
in a new way?
It doesn't have to be huge, right? Don't go out here and think you have to do something extraordinary. It could be the small things become the big things, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So for one thing, I'll leave my shoes all around the house in different areas, and Milena will get baskets or bins or little cubbies for our feet to go, our shoes to go in. And so instead of me leaving them out, I'll clean up all my shoes and put them in the right spot, versus just thinking, oh, I'm going to wear these in 2 hours, or I'm going to wear these later today. So for Milena, for me, it's not a big deal, but I know it means a lot to Milena. So if I'm able to do one little thing, just clean up, or clean up as I go when I make dinner, things like that. Again, it doesn't have to be huge, but trust me, your spouse will recognize and notice it when you do it. 'Cause they're like, wait, I'm always doing that, and they're never doing it. So wait, what changed?
Here's a perfect example. A couple weeks ago, Jordan wasn't home when I was doing nighttime routine. And I remember you pulled out all of the kids' PJs, all of their things, and put them by their beds. And when I went to go get them, I was like, and it I'm telling you, the smallest things, especially as parents, the smallest little things make such a big impact. And I remember that stuck with me too. So I feel like we could go off about that. Okay. Next thing, connect with them with their love language. Now, if you have the same love language, consider that a blessing and praise the Lord right now for that, because that makes your job a little bit easier because it's what you like to receive too. But
Like
if you
if you're
have
both
very,
physical touch, then all you have to do is just go hug each other and
yeah, it's like
cuddle.
it's
and
great.
You're connected.
But if you hate to snuggle and don't like physical touch and your spouse does, that kind of can be of area of tension. So we want to encourage you today to connect with your spouse on the love language that they love to receive the most. And so if it is physical touch, give them extra hugs and snuggles. And if this is an area you struggle with, because for me it was for a while, pray about it, because I was like, Lord, let me love Jordan the way that he likes to be loved. Like, there's nothing better than your love language being the way that you get loved on. It just, again, goes the extra mile. It's a different way that we can serve one another. And I think the overall theme here is to outserve one another, because when you do that, when you're putting them before yourself, there's so much beauty in that. And I think most of the time when we start to feel disconnected, it's because we're not serving each other anymore. We're not connecting anymore. We're not doing things with each other anymore. So
yeah, or that question of why are they not serving me
right.
pops into my head first, when it should be, how am I not serving Milena?
Yes.
It should be the other way around. And to your point, honey, I think it's easier, I should say, for us to serve our spouse in the way that we want to love on them,
or it's easier,
or how we would want them to love us. But knowing, Milena hit the nail on the head, knowing their love language and how you can serve them in that regard will completely make all the difference. And that really does like stir your affection for one another when you start seeing, wow, they're actually loving me in the way I love to be loved. That's telling me that they are paying attention and being thoughtful and mindful of loving me that way, because I know that's not how Milena like normally will show love,
Right.
So it shows a lot of thoughtfulness and a lot of effort that the other person's putting, and that makes you want to outdo one another in honor, as Paul puts it in the scriptures. So yeah, it's good to know their love language and how you can connect with them in that.
Yes. And the third point would be to answer these 3 questions together. If you aren't in the routine of doing date night, we highly, highly, highly suggest that. Have we done a video on date night yet, or a podcast on that? I know we've done a YouTube video like 2 years ago at this point.
We can revisit it, because we have modified things.
Okay, yeah. We should definitely revisit
like
that.
what we talk about, what we don't talk about, and what the overall like start to end looks like.
Yes,
I think people would benefit from that. And want to see that.
I only mention that because when we have date night is when we answer these 3 questions. So if you're not meeting together at least once a week to spend some type of time together, whether your kids are there or not, just like some intentional, whether it's couch time or just like you two watching a movie together. If you're not doing that, I highly, highly suggest that. And the next time you do that, I want to encourage you to ask each other these 3 questions. First, how did I make you feel loved last week? And the reason why I think this question is so important, because you're humans that are forever changing. You're not going to be the same person that you were 10 years ago when you first met each other. And so I love this question because it helps pinpoint your spouse where they're at and where you can meet them at right now. So maybe the way that you loved on them this past week, like you've probably done 100 times, but maybe this past week, that one time that you did it just really hit home and just really was what they needed. And so I think it's nice to realize that, because sometimes Jordan will do something for me and he won't realize how impactful and how much it really made my entire week. And so this gives you an opportunity to explain that. Babe, do you want to share number 2?
Second question is, how didn't I make you feel loved this week? So like what was hurtful, right?
Yeah.
And so that obviously, sometimes it's funny. We'll laugh about, it's not funny, but we'll laugh kind of nervously when we struggle to think like, how did I make you feel loved? And it'll just be crickets for like 30 seconds. And then as soon as this question comes up, like, how did I make you feel not loved or didn't love you? And I'm like, right away, just like a CVS receipt list, I mean, that's just how it is sometimes. So we're working on that, and by God's grace, he's helping us and getting better at that. But it's usually it's easier, and that's been an indicator for me of like how much I need to still discipline myself to know, okay, it's not about me. It's not all about how I feel and what I think. It's how do I serve Milena and make her feel loved, and then maybe not take everything personally or not be so sensitive to certain things and just like let it roll off my back kind of stuff. But yeah, knowing that it's never, what am I trying to say? Like that you'll never intentionally hurt me. That it's usually something that was just a miscommunication. So
yes. And before you ask this question, please please tame your tongue. And please be...
Yeah, we're both in a very good spot when we ask these questions, by the way. Let's just preface that.
Yeah,
this isn't coming off of a fight or, something's off. Like, we're in date night mode.
The point
like
of
the
this
kids
is...
are taken care of. We're focusing on ourselves. And
it's a
Melena's
point...
eating. We're good.
It's a point to communicate together and problem solve instead of create problems. So when you ask this question, know that a argument is not supposed to come out of this. You are supposed to leave this question answered with solutions moving into the next week. Because I have found that there have been times where Jordan and I will ask ourselves this question during date night, and we will have an argument to the point where we do not continue date night. So do not let that become a sore spot for you. So definitely
learn from our mistakes.
Tame your tongue. Yes, be wise in the way that you respond. Be slow to speak.
Quick to listen. Just look up 1 Corinthians 13 before do that, and look up the true definition of love and try to apply that into every single response that you do, because this is supposed to be solving problems, not creating them. It's perfectly fine to get your heart out there and say, like, this is, but there's a way to deliver it and there's a way to receive it.
Yes, be very gentle in your speech.
You want to try to remove the emotion as much as possible when you're communicating it, which I
Proverbs
know ladies
15:1.
is so hard to do.
Proverbs 15:1. Write it on your forehead. Maybe I think we should start doing this.
Hold on,
This
I just dug myself in a hole there.
Thank God I didn't hear it.
You just went right by it. I said you have to take emotion out of this as much as possible, which I know is very hard for you to do, ladies. So now
you pissed off everyone.
Yeah, everyone up in arms at me. But in all seriousness, sometimes I'm the one that's more emotionally charged in a matter than Melena is. As much as I'd like to think, I'm the calm, cool, rational one, sometimes Melena's just very blunt, matter of fact kind of approach to things. And I'm like, well, wait a second, that's kind of hurting my pride, So try to remove that emotion as much as possible. In all seriousness.
I'd read together Proverbs 15:1 before answering this question or asking this question. All right, last question to ask is, how can I be praying for you? And I think this question is so important because it unites you, because it's like we are not fighting against one another. And I think that was one of the most beautiful things that we got out of our loss with Jaira too, was like how much it unified us and made us realize that we are together on the same team and we're not fighting against each other. And so I think this question is so beautiful because it connects you. Like, how can I be praying for you? What are you going through? Because I'm going to be going through it too.
Yeah, definitely. We ended on that one specifically because you want to end on a high note. You don't want it to be like, we're all the ways I made you upset.
Did
and like,
you
that's
notice
how you end your dinner. You're like, I'll take the check now.
These questions, it's a compliment sandwich. The first one is, how did I make you feel loved? The middle one is like not so much one that we want to talk about, but it's healthy too. And then the last one is, how can I be praying for you? So intentionally made it a compliment
sandwich. Like if I were
sandwich.
to make Melena a compliment sandwich on her appearance right now, I'd say, honey, your eyes are gorgeous. Lip shade's a little bit off, but the hair is very beachy and very like that's how you do a compliment sandwich. So we're trying to do the same thing here.
Yeah, because you remember the first and the last thing. You don't really remember the
she didn't even remember that I insulted her.
I
lip
do
shade.
remember.
She'll take that to her grave.
Another thing is that this is an opportunity to have further conversation about something that might be on your heart. And so if you tend to have a spouse that is more, you kind of have to pry things out of them, this kind of really gives them the opportunity of like, oh, well, actually, honey, at work this week, I have this really big thing. And you might even be hearing about this project for the first time. Or maybe they can open up about a struggle that they had this past week. Or I don't know. I think this really allows for more communication and more time to just be more intimate with one another in your conversation.
Yeah, it's hard when, you and your spouse work differently, or one works and one stays at home, and it's just this whole dynamic of I have my life over here and I have my life over here. But to bring both together, at least somewhat in on that world, can help where you don't feel so alone or so isolated.
Yeah.
And then praying together, like asking, how can I pray for you? And then even in that moment, praying together, because a lot of times...
Husbands, pray with your wives. The husband should be the one specifically praying in this.
That was a game changer for us in our marriage when we started praying together, because it sounds kind of... I feel kind of embarrassed even just saying it, because you would automatically assume, oh yeah, you guys are praying together all the time, but it was a little whiles into our marriage before we started actually like praying together. Whether that was for one reason or the other, I'm not even really sure why. We just kind of just took it for granted or never really implemented it. But once we started praying together with each other, that was, and for each other, that was a game changer. So as much as possible, do that with your spouse. And that way you can bring up these specific prayer requests each week and then check in like, hey, honey, how's that going? Or you know, I want to let you know I'm still praying for you from last week, you know, whatever. And just see where that goes. But the Lord's blessed us tremendously in these things. And it's certainly helped to bring us closer and more tight-knit in those seasons where we might feel a little bit distance to each other.
Yeah. We'll be praying for you guys. I hope that you fall madly in love with your spouse even more so that this kind of rekindles things. That is all from me. Anything else to add?
I'm all set.
All right. Love you guys. We'll see you next week. Be blessed.